One. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dragons Fan Guide podcast for episode 4 for season 2023, and with special guests for the second time, Entertain House. How you going, mate?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing well. It was one of the best rounds of rugby league in a long time. This season seems to be so close. The gaps between teams, just besides a couple, just doesn't seem to be there anymore. So, mate, I can't wait to get into the round that was.
So, what was your thoughts on Josh Reynolds' return to the NRL?
It was great to see Josh Reynolds back in that side, and obviously, once again, he's a winner, unbeaten streak at the moment. It was great to see him back in the NRL. He wasn't personally my man of the match. I'd probably give that one to Matt Burton or Jacob Preston, but yeah, it was great to see him back in Bulldogs colours, and I think the fans really enjoyed seeing him back there after that move to the Tigers. I don't think he did too much there at the Tigers, so it's good to see him back and playing with confidence.
Yeah, I thought he was solid out there. He had a couple of good runs, but I wouldn't give him the player of the game as well. I'd go Jacob Preston probably in my opinion, or Burton. But it's good to see him back in the NRL. I don't know. I don't think he'll be in many more games for him. I think he'll mainly be in Cup. I think he'll be there probably this week. I think while Kickows out and that, I think he'll still probably be on the bench for a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, it was good to see him back in the NRL. The fans really liked it. I just wonder maybe if they play at Belmore next. I think it's in about 10 rounds or something. They're back at Belmore. So I think that will be, I hope he plays in that Belmore game because we saw the reaction of him in that trial game against the Sharks, and they went wild there. They always do at Belmore. So, yeah, we'll hope we see a little bit more of him.
Hopefully.
What position would you like to see him play?
Well, I think he plays much better off the bench than Jayden Okunbor. I think Jayden Okunbor's been kind of wasted getting that. Like, I argue that you've got Karaz and Addo Carr, so you've got no spot for Okunbor on the team. So look, I think we could see more of Josh Reynolds than you think. I think once Jayden Okunbor serves this suspension, Cameron Ciraldo's got to have a good look at what's best for the team, and I think he can play better as a forward. So I'd be putting him on that bench at least for the next 3 weeks, personally.
I think until News back, Fanilla Brown's back, he'd probably keep him there. He's definitely a good 14. He's better than Hocking Ball. I don't reckon Hocking Ball will get much more of a run at Belmore. I think this will probably be his last season there. They've got a lot of younger players coming through and new signings there, and yeah, I can't see his spot being at the club for much longer. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but
yeah, I think he's had his chances. He's been there a while now. He's been there for about 4 years, and I guess he hasn't obviously played NRL at a consistent level. It's been more New South Wales Cup, but maybe they are scarce for positions at the moment because you can see that Cameron Ciraldo is definitely making some good decisions at that club, and that seems to be a decision that everybody's thinking is a bit odd. But it's not only Jayden Okunbor in the NRL now. There's a lot of players who, should be playing in the centres or wing that are coming off the bench, which is a really weird move. You've seen it with the Roosters with Corey Allen, and there's some weird ones going.
There's been some weird ones. In my opinion, I think the NRL should have a rule with the bench that you can only have players on the bench that actually will play minutes on the field. I think there should be something of that sort come into play. I don't know how that would work, but I was thinking that with the Melbourne game that they dropped Tarek Sims to 18th man in favour of Grant Anderson, and Anderson didn't play a minute on the field. So I don't know what your thoughts on that, but I think that the NRL should enforce that players that you select on the bench should play on the field at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a great decision. And I think if you're going as far as doing that, I think players should get a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes on the field. You see too many players getting, even debutants as well, coming on and getting 1 minute in their debut game, getting two or one run in the last set. It's poor. So I think that's a great rule. And I think if they introduce it, it should be about a 3 to 5 minute at minimum that player plays. We see some debutants come on half time, like Brendan Hands, for example, but you see some other ones and you think, really? He's literally, I think, I feel like Helam Lukey comes to mind. I think his debut from memory might have been one of those ones where it was just a run on. So, yeah, I'd like to see something like that.
Something of that nature. Now, good that you mentioned Handsies. I've known Handsy for quite a while. I've been mates with him. I've messaged him, and I oftenly see him when I'm up in Sydney at the driving range. So I was happy for him to make his debut. That was one of the questions, actually, mate. So, what was your thoughts on Brandon?
Yeah, mate, I think Brandon's bringing a lot to this team. I think a couple of weeks ago I would have said, oh, I'm enjoying the signing of Josh Hodgson. We'll see what it does for the club, but I'm not. I'm going to be honest. It seems to be a backward step, and really look forward to Brandon Hands coming on and kind of changing the game. You can clearly see it provided plenty of attack when he came on, and Josh Hodgson went off towards the end of that game. We scored plenty of points to come back into it. So, look, I hope Brandon gets named once again. I hope he's there and is locked up that spot on the bench. He's done it for 2 weeks now, providing attack. So, look, I know Josh is someone we've paid some money to have as part of our club, but yeah, young Hands in 2 weeks, or not even young, but Brendan Hands in 2 weeks, who I was calling for his debut for at least 2-3 years now, he's doing a great job on the field.
So with that, now I don't know if they'll name him this week, because the rule is that they got permission because he's not on an NRL contract. I think the limit is 2 games.
Yeah,
So I think Parramatta they should definitely lock him up. I like Hodgson, and I think he's been good for you, but I've got a controversial move. I would move Hodgson into the middle instead of hooker. I think that he might be better at prop at his age, but that might just be my opinion watching the game. I think he's at hooker. I think he's a little bit slow, and some of his passes haven't been that great, but he's been really good at tackling and making some big runs. I'd look at moving him, but that might be a bit of a controversial one to put on the thing. So if anybody's watching this who want to screen record me saying that, I don't mind. But I don't know what your thoughts on that is, mate. But
well, I'd have to disagree. I know there'd be some people that would be out there agreeing, but as I mentioned, we've paid money for a reason. We think Josh Hodgson can be a part of this club, and that's why we've done it. I think, personally, he starts the game well, the first, 15 minutes, but he definitely gets tired early on. But I don't think he could handle it in the forwards, mate. You got massive blokes running at you now, like Tino, like Payne Haas. When we play some of those Queensland teams, if he was in the front row, middle, or even the back row, I think he'd really struggle. So, look, I think hooker is still his position. He still tries to come up with plays like a one-on-one strip, which would be very hard in the back row or front row. So, yeah, I can understand from, and it's a good approach, but I would keep Josh Hodgson in the hooker position if you were to keep him in the starting side.
But in another thing I would say for Parramatta is that I definitely think that Brandon deserves a contract.
A top 30.
Top 30. Because I think he's just on a cup contract. I would even consider starting Brandon. At a chance, you might start Brandon, or bring him on earlier than what Parramatta are bringing him on.
Oh, yeah, bringing him on earlier seems to be the right decision. I don't know about starting him. I think that's a big call, especially so early on in his career. But as soon as halftime finishes, maybe the 50th minute mark, bang, he's on. You can't wait till this 60, 65 minute
No,
of
no,
playing
you
him.
can't. The other question I've got for you about Parramatta, mate, is how do you think your season's honestly going?
Oh, well, the season going at the moment is obviously very poor. 1 win, 4 losses is just not good enough. A lot of people think and seem to say we're at full strength. I disagree with that. We're still waiting for Sean Lane to come back. Junior Paulo played the first couple of weeks, but he's obviously suspended at the moment. I think the back line just hasn't been great. I think 1 week it's Bailey, the other week it's Wonga. There's issues there. So I'd be trying to bring in, which I think you'll see this week with Bailey Simonson's suspension, someone like Sean Russell or Hayes Dunster, just to try and, fix that edge defence. But I think the footy that we're playing hasn't been too bad. We've been able to score plenty of points. We've been in most of our games. Obviously, we had 3 games in a row that we lost by 4 points. We're in a very poor position on the ladder, and there is a long way to go. And if we are to play finals, which I still think we can, it's going to be tough, and it hasn't been the start ideal. But as I said, even in some of those losses, I think we've played some good footy. Quite disappointed with last week, though. I thought the Roosters were on top of us, and I thought that the score really flattered the Eels, and that was not the game that we saw on Thursday night. It should
Yeah.
have been, 28 points to 12 or something like that.
So yeah, I think I agree with you, mate. Because my uncle, I think I told you in the last one, my uncle's a huge Parramatta supporter, and
Yep.
so I've kind of got a soft spot for Parramatta, and I thought that Roosters game coming off the week before with the Panthers game, I thought they'd be right up into it, and I thought you could see an instant change about Paulo there. Now I thought Walamu Greg was solid out there, but Paulo was definitely. I think if Paulo was there, it would have been a different score against the Roosters.
Yep.
He's definitely a terrific player, Paulo, and yeah, they're normally a different side without him. But I think I think Sean Lane might be back this week, I think, or is it next week? Who would you partner with Sean Lane?
In the back row,
Yeah,
you'd have to put Ryan Madison over there. I think Bryce Cartwright probably drops back to the bench. I personally like the performance of Ryan Madison off the bench, so I think it would work better. But if I'm thinking in Brad's mind, I think you'd want to have a fast start considering the way that we've leaked points early on. So, yeah, I'd have Sean Lane left edge, Ryan Madison right edge, Bryce Cartwright on the bench, and Jermaine Hopgood at lock.
yeah. I think that'd be a good team, but I personally would have Sean Lane, and if he's fully fit, Matt Dury. I think he's been one of your best to start with, and I'd be starting that with Madison on the bench and Hopgood at 13. That's how I would put it if I was to put Parramatta's best 17. I think I don't know if he's injured or not, Dury, but I thought Cartwright's been good, but I think Dury's been one of your better signings, and come out really well after an ACL injury, and I think he's been one of your best this season.
Yep.
And Hopgood has been terrific, and I would think Parramatta are stupid if they'd move Hopgood anywhere else. He's been a terrific signing, Hopgood.
Yeah, it's been an awesome one.
What was it? He's making was it 150 meters like every week or something? And
he's definitely over 100. I'm not sure about 150. He might be. He's making plenty of tackles as well.
He's been really good, yeah.
over 50 tackles per game. Yeah, really solid. Especially still a big performance when he went off going into the second half. In the Manly game, everyone expected him to play 80, but he still played great, even though he didn't finish out the game.
And as well, mates, I think this week with Parramatta's game, who do you play, mate? It's Tigers, isn't it? I think it's Tigers.
Yeah, we play the Tigers on Easter Monday. So if you ask me for a tip, I will not be giving it, just because I do my tipping video.
Yeah, well, it's easy. It's easy for me to tip it. Parramatta by 1 million. I can't see the Tigers doing much. But I just think for Parramatta's sake, they just need to be careful because we know last year it's a different Tigers team and the Parramatta team, but how that last Tigers encounter happened was it the same round, I think?
Yeah, it was. So the Tigers were 0 wins, 5 losses going into Easter Monday, and Jackson Hastings kicked a field goal that literally went over the post. My uncle had come from England to watch a Parramatta game, and Parramatta were defeated on not Good Friday, Easter Monday. And not to mention the West Tigers were paying $8 or $9 head to head to win that game. Parramatta were about $1.06. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you honestly think the Tigers will improve?
No, I made a video on the West Tigers, and I think it's so disappointing for fans, and it just seems to be the same shit every year. It all starts with sacking the CEO. The leadership of this side, the decisions that are made on this side, go off what's happening at your front office. And on your front office, you've got a man wearing tracksuit pants, just like I was doing, kicking a footy or playing a footy around while he's meant to be doing other things, going on his phone in the dressing room. All the blame is going on Sheens. And look, Sheens isn't making the greatest decisions as coach, but you can't keep sacking coaches at the West Tigers.
No. We've got how many, as well, mate, how many coaches since 2005 have the Tigers had? Is it like 6 or 7 we've had? Was it Sheens? He was sacked, and then was it Cleary, Jason Taylor? We've had Maguire, we've had Kamali, and then it's like Tim Sheens is at 2 years, and then it's Benji Marshall. It's another coach. I agree. It's a serious problem at the club. They can't keep going the way they have. It's disappointing because if you look at their signings they've made, they've been high range and they've been top quality signings. But I've seen Isaiah Papali'i go from a Dally M winning player to being back to very average, and it's not been terrible, but he's just been very average. And someone like Clemmer, I haven't really seen much of a big impact from Clemmer. But I think Appy's been trying his best. It's just he's not got the great players around him. And I'm happy they've started Appy instead of the first round. That was a shit move to do that to Sheens, because it's like I'm trying to recreate the Panthers. It's not it's a completely different team. But yeah, I don't know what the Tigers do. I think it starts with the CEO going, and the whole leadership there. And what is it like? It's just 12 years this year they've not made the finals, or is it 11? I can't keep track. So
I think 12. I think it is 12. I think you're right.
I think it's 12. Yeah, 12 or 11 years. I feel bad for Tigers fans, and it's like the club says every year it's going to be our year, and it just keeps on getting Worse. That, me, in my opinion, they're nearly as bad as they were last year.
Well, they're not even getting close to finals. They obviously had those few years where they were coming ninth, but they're not even, just as you said, seemed like they were worse right now in a position than they were last year, and they have a lot more of a talented roster this season compared to last season. So it's disappointing that you can't even say that they're on the up. I think a lot of people, including myself, pre-season might have had them around, 13, 14 and said they're on the up. But man, I really, really feel for Tigers fans. I really do. And I think you can't look that we'll all make jokes to an extent throughout the year, but you've got to be careful. I think this year with some Tigers jokes, it's a pretty bad season for them, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. The draw they've got is fucked.
Was it? I think they play Parramatta, and then it's at Roosters. I think Warriors. It's a tough draw.
Yeah, the win that people have it circled against is the Dragons at Magic Round, but I don't see them winning that game. I'm going to say it right now. I don't know why, and I know that they turn up against Parramatta and South Sydney differently. I'll look at the team list tomorrow if Parramatta's got some outs and things, but I think the West Tigers might get their first win because they're at a desperate point at 10 straight losses. Look, I think I do think it'll be the Rabbits. I think I think they can beat South Sydney. I don't know why. That's going to be their first win of the season.
And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I look back at this video and they haven't won a game for ages. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win a game this season. Real at the way they're going, it's hard to say that, but it's also something that it's not a lie. It's a possibility. The rate they're going at, and it's just confusing. The club's in a very confusing way, and I just hope for when Benji Marshall takes over that the club are in a much better way for him, because that could turn really bad, and that we can't keep talking about the Tigers, mate. So we'll have to move on. But if you could sum up the Tigers in one word, what would it be?
Disappointing. Disappointing, as I said. How many coaches can be sacked before the players have to be accountable for some of their... Luke Brooks, for example. Disappointing.
Yeah. Brooks must go. They can't keep Brooks. It's just...
I actually think Brooks could play some good footy if he's at a new club, in a new mindset, with a good coach. I think you give Luke Brooks a chance at a new club. I really do. I think Penrith should go after Brooks. I know it's a bit of a weird club, but I think Penrith could be a good place for Brooks to get back to being some good football. But we'll have to wait and see. But if I could describe them in one word, I don't even need to do a word. Stupid. It's kind of hard. It's hard to think of a positive. But if I had to say one positive for them is Fanua Pole. I think he's been by far one of their best this year, and one of their best talents. And I just hope that they can keep him long term. To Ikamanu. And I think he's been there for recent years, but I think he's developing more and more. And I don't think this year, but I think he's a smoky in the next year or so for Origin in the Blues.
I think he needs to get himself out of the Tigers system. If I was Ikamanu, I'd be trying to go at Penrith with them losing Spencer Leniu. I think under the coaching of Cleary and, Isaiah Yeo being around him, Harris and Leota, I think he could be a top player. But, yeah, so the other question I've got for you, mate, is what's one player this year you think should be back to reserve grade from now onwards?
Oh, good question. I haven't actually thought too much about players being in reserve grade. Well, I guess we'll mention Jayden Okunbor, and I think he's wasted on the bench. So, but then again, there are some players that are starting and they're just really out of form. So I'm just trying to think. bit of a controversial one, probably due to their depth, but someone who I think is just doing absolutely nothing for their club is Jordan Rapana for the Canberra Raiders. Jordan Rapana under a high ball. Jordan Rapana's discipline hasn't improved. He's letting in tries. So I'll say Jordan Rapana based on what I've seen in previous weeks.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of getting to a point, kind of discipline like Josh Maguire was when it's a game when you can't guarantee he's going to finish the game. So
Yeah,
they've got to, and they can't keep losing him for long stretches, and he'll keep getting suspended. But hopefully they can deal with it.
Is he suspended again? Now that I think about it, I think he is suspended again.
Yeah, he's got one. I think it's one more game. I think or something.
Well, he played last week against Penrith, and he kept dropping the ball under the high ball.
Yeah, but I think Albert Hopewati's been way better than him this year so far.
Absolutely, by a country mile.
But the player I personally would choose is a little bit of a controversial pick, mate. But I would be going with it's a hard one. Probably Tyrone Wishart. I think he's been dropped this week, but I don't think he's been up to the top quality, and I'd be keeping him in reserve grade. But I think Bronson, is it Bronson Garlic?
Yeah,
I think he's been good.
I think the Storm really limited as to who they can start, who they can put on the bench. They've got so many injuries. That's why you're seeing Tyrone Wishart consistently in that side.
I'll just bring up Melbourne because they're one of the questions. We've got 7 minutes left, mate, if that's all good with you.
Yeah, mate, that's fine.
So the other question I got for you is, do you think the Storm can make the 8 this year?
Absolutely. I think they've still got the best things to come. This week's going to be tough. The Roosters are a good team, but I was going to say they've got a good stretch of home games. They know how to win at Amy Park. The crowd gets around them. Big home field advantage. You still got Ryan Pappenhausen to come back, Jerome Hughes to come back, Nelson Asofa-Solomona. So this side's absolutely going to be in the top 8. To me, interesting to see if they can make the top 4. I didn't tip them to make it last year. I did tip them to make it this year. I think I had them in 3rd or 4th. There's a lot of teams above the Storm right now, but I did tip them against South, and they played with a lot of confidence. So Sydney Roosters and Melbourne Storm this week's a great game, but I've got no doubt that the Storm are going to be there come September.
I think they can be there, but I think it's going to be a challenging year with the injuries. And I just hope for Pappenhausen's sake that he can stay injury-free, because I think he's one of the players that could have so much potential, but we just haven't seen it. Yet him, Latrell, Turbo, they just need, those 3 players just need a full season injury-free. And we could see all 3 of those guys in the Blues side for probably the next 10, 15 years, possibly.
Yeah, you're right.
But who was your player of the round round 5?
Oh, I'll tell you what, mate, there's 2, but I thought he probably had a better game last week. I'll go second place, Payne Haas. Payne Haas was massive for the Broncos. I thought players like Jordan Ricky, Reece Walsh were great, but Payne was an absolute monster, hard to contain against the Tigers. But for someone against tough opposition and to overcome the scoreline that they did, in my opinion, what was the game of the round and easily the game of the year, I'm going to go Shaun Johnson with the Warriors. Shaun Johnson had that game around his finger. He was literally conducting it all in that second half. The Warriors were down by 14 points. They ended up winning the game. He kicked the penalty goal. He came up with some great repeat sets, some great kicks. So my player of the round is Shaun Johnson.
So I would, if I pick two, mate, as well. I would also pick Sean Johnson. I thought, looking last year and that, I wasn't sure about Shawnee, but I think he's been terrific this year. And I was watching that Warriors game, and I tipped the Warriors.
Nice, good tip. Yeah, tips well.
I didn't get the money though, but I once I saw Cronulla was at 20-0, I was thinking I wasn't sure, but it was just a great game to watch, and I was very happy for the Warriors, and that's one of the games that I think should be on the highlight reels for a long time to come. And
Yep.
the rain came down really heavily. It was that last bit of the game was, I thought, the Warriors got the field goal, and I was thinking, that's it. But then, with Nico and that, it was a high intensity right to the end, and I think Andrew Webster has done a great job at the Warriors, and they've got a great team now. And yeah, I got Sean Johnson, and I would also give it to Nico Hines as well. Both of those guys I thought deserved it this week. I could mention the whole Dragons team, but I'll be here for about an hour. So we'll just say whole Dragons team and Sean Johnson and Nico Hines, mate, for me. The other question I've got for you, do you think we should, from next season onwards, have a Super League team compete in the pre-season trials?
Yeah, I think it was good to see, and I think it was successful, and I think it showcased that there is some talent in the Super League that look like they can make it in the NRL. I think it's a funny one because you've seen Ryan Hall, for example, a great try-scoring player, come out at the Roosters, overhyped, did nothing. But then you got players like John Bateman, who came over and became an absolute beast. And then you got George Williams again from the Canberra Raiders. So there are outside backs that can be, NRL level. And someone like Jack Wellesby showcased just what he's made of during the pre-season challenge with St. Helens. So I think it's great to have St. Helens at the top of that competition for the reason, but maybe whoever comes first in the Super League this year come over again for the pre-season challenge and their eye on those positions that they may be able to fill from England too.
Yeah. Do you watch Super League, mate?
I am a Wigan supporter. I'll be honest. I probably watch about six, 7 games a year. So I don't consistently watch the Super League and get up too early for it, but probably get up, about 6 or 7 times throughout the year and always keep an eye on the results as well. So I know Wigan is up there at the moment, which is good.
I'm a Warrington supporter, so I think we're still at the top of the ladder. So there's actually 12 former Dragons in the club's top 30. So the last 2 questions of the night, mate, is do you think New South Wales should have a Magic Round as well? And if they do, what stadium should it be at?
Well, mate, I think Bankwest is the perfect place to put it. I think Bankwest has been shown for years how good it can be with concerts and things as well. But if they were to have it, they'd probably want to showcase their new stadium of Allianz. However, a New South Wales Magic Round is a great idea. You've had it at Queensland for a few years now. The only thing is, if they obviously want to keep the grand final in New South Wales, then I guess that Suncorp hosting Magic Round is kind of that, fair and square that each state. I guess there's an argument for both sides, but up to me, Bankwest for sure. If it was the NRL controlling the decision, I'd say no, because they probably want the grand final to stay in Sydney, and I'd say they put it at Allianz Stadium.
Yep. And who do you think the Rookie of the Year will be so far from what you've seen this year already?
Oh, that's a huge call. I haven't thought about this one at all either. Look, Jacob Preston from the Dogs is right up there. He's starting in that side. He's coming up with some big plays. He was the New South Wales Blues Player of the Week, so I'm assuming he played some juniors there with the Blues. He's up there. Taruva is looking good at the Penrith Panthers, while Taylor May is obviously out. Toto and Taruva are looking good. So if Taruva gets plenty of ball and has a big season, he could absolutely be in for Rookie of the Year. Look, there's plenty in contention at the moment. It's very early on. Toby Couchman's looking nice at the Dragons. So
Yeah.
I'll probably say right now that Jacob Preston's probably in the front runner.
He's definitely in the mix, but I would go. What's his name from the Storm? Jordan. What's his?
Jonah Pez.
Jonah. Yeah, that's wrong name. Peasant. I think
he has looked good, and as I said, I rate him. I do. I rate him. 3 games in, I like what he's come up with, but I don't think he's going to get enough footy time. I think he'll come into that side when Cameron Munster is playing Origin duties, which obviously could get him that Rookie of the Year, but I don't think he's going to get enough game time to get it personally, which is a shame.
Preston's been really good, and I have to admit, before this year, I actually never heard of him. I don't know. I don't think many people did. I think he came from North Sydney, to my knowledge. I think he's been really good, and to get that starting spot there, because before he signed there, or I think he signed there, and I kind of did my best 17. I had Jackson Tapine in my team in the second row with kick out.
Yeah.
But I think Preston has been by far one of their best players this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not mentioned in the extended squad for New South Wales.
One other player that's a bit of a smoky going under the radar is the Manly backup hooker, Kyo Weeks. Kyo Weeks is definitely in the mix. He had a big game on the weekend as well, and he's locking down that spot. He's in a Brendan Hands situation probably where I'm not sure if he's in the top 30, but after the last 2 weeks, he could definitely be upgraded to a contract as well.
Yeah. And the final question of the show, mate, if you could coach any NRL team of your choice as a head coach, who would you pick?
Oh, mate, how could I not pick my team, the Parramatta Eels? I guess I guess if you're going off, I'm just trying to think of the factor of, home stadiums and everything as well. I'd probably go the Sydney Roosters. I'd have to go the Roosters. I think they've got great team on paper. They seem to have all that unlimited money to have great players come through. And obviously next year, Spencer Leniu, currently Tedesco. I'd like to see what I could do at the Roosters as a head coach.
I actually would take it. I would take it to the Broncos. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the Broncos, I think as a coach, it would be a great club to be involved with Reece Walsh and Cobbo and Staggs and that team on paper. I think it's a great looking team, and Reynolds and Suncorp Stadium. I'm hopeful to go there sometime this year. I've seen it from all TV and all, and that Dolphins game there, how big the crowd was. I think that would be a great club to coach.
Yep.
So I'll give you a bonus question, mate.
All right.
What player do you think now would be the best fullback in the competition?
The best current fullback.
Yeah.
I think it would probably be Reece Walsh. I think Reece Walsh is scoring tries, providing try assists, running the ball. I think he was the last try scorer, or at least he loves to score tries in the second half consistently as well. Yeah, he's up there and I mean up there as in I think he's got it for the starting Maroons fullback jersey. So, and I think Tedesco, Dylan Edwards haven't really proven themselves as good as him just yet. They probably will by the end of the year, but Reece Walsh is the form fullback of my opinion.
And I would actually go Lachlan Miller from the Knights.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That wraps it up, everybody. Thank you to the 12 viewers we've had through the show and everybody that's commented. Thank you, Entertain House. So if everybody subscribe to Entertain House, his YouTube channel will be linked in the description with his Instagram account. And yeah, thank you for joining us for the second time, mate.
No.
And we hope Parramatta wins against the Tigers. Think my uncle might have a heart attack for the second time. He paid was it top price and to go to that game, and yeah, but hopefully they win, and yeah, all right. Thanks, mate.
No worries. Thanks, guys.